Hello and welcome. I'm John, this is Paul, we're from Discover Tenkara. If you didn't catch the last video that we've done, you'll see some great tips on how to test your rod, how to check the sort of quality of your rod and any rod you decide to buy in the future. There's a great PDF that goes with that video that's free, so if you've not seen it, you can either search around where you're watching this video now or check out our blog at discovertenkara.com, where you'll be able to get your free PDF and learn all about your rod. In this one, we're going to be on stream doing a bit of fishing. We've got quite a script to get through and a few fishing scenarios to show you. So do you want to kick us off with the first sort of
it's almost it's almost exactly what you're saying there, is that we're going to take you out on stream and give you a couple of... It's not really been discussed and certainly not explained or videoed anywhere in the West. I'm pretty sure it's not even really been covered on some of the Japanese YouTube content or anything like that. So we've got some great skills that you can pick up right away and start using. But what I wanted to get to in this little episode really is trying to give you an idea of the story and the way that we actually came to appreciating Tenkara. And it sounds kind of, I don't know, that sounds kind of strange, but we found actually that we started Tenkara with this idea that this would be a wonderful way of fishing French leaders, because we've got a background in fishing French competition Euro nymphing style tactics.
All the sort of, even dry flies in competition can be fished on things like what people would recognise as a French leader, with all the line off the water, as well as nymphs. So it was one of these things where, long light rod with what looks like a long light leader, and all the line held off, it chimed with us.
You're
perfectly.
sort of thinking that sub sort of zero weight kind of rod that's longer than a European competition rod.
Yeah.
That's right in the middle of our sort of, exactly the sweet spot of the stuff that we were doing.
Yeah.
And because even when we were, doing the research for the European nymphing techniques, we'd go to the Czech Republic and sort of, look out the people that were the best at that, and sort of go into that source. And that's really, the way that we've approached things in our fishing for, over 30 years between us, I guess. That's literally what we've done every time we get into something. We've got a bit of a motto: if something's worth doing, it's worth overdoing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was the mindset that we came to Tenkara with, and we thought, we had this wonderful opportunity. We got an invitation from Dr. Ishigaki to go over to Japan and learn more about it. And we went over there really with that mindset of, great, we will find some fantastic new tweaks that we can apply to what we were really expecting to be a modified version of French nymphing. Now, don't get me wrong, these Tenkara rods are amazing for fishing competition dry fly, as you would on a French leader. They're fantastic for fishing French nymphs as well. But this is the thing, we got on this journey and we never intended to be where we're at now, because we were just thinking it was another part of our existing technique.
I think it's safe to say we were both Japanophiles and both absolutely mad about fishing. And seeing these crazy rods with no reels, it was too fascinating not to explore more.
Yeah.
You're dead right. We weren't prepared for the revelation of fishing technique that Tenkara actually had to offer,
and the feel of it, and the elegance of it, and the tradition, and the richness of the techniques. And we were just at every turn just surprised by it. And I think that's really what we're trying to sort of communicate. The feel of it is just so different.
Yeah.
And to try and give you a bit of a flavour of that, we wanted to give you some techniques today, and we're actually going to go out on stream. We'll show you a couple of tactics that are especially useful on bigger rivers, what's known as Honryu sections of river in Japan.
More or less translates as the main flow or the main stream.
Yeah. And intimidating rivers with some big fish in them from time to time. Some migratory fish, but powerful and complex and, really terrifying wading in some situations.
Yeah.
But the read across from that is that you can go and take some of those techniques, and because they're almost over-engineered for the slightly more benign streams that are more commonly fished with a fly rod and reel in the UK and in the States potentially, it means that they are kind of super potent and they work really, really well, even on highly technical waters and very, very pressured waters.
Yeah.
This idea that Tenkara is not really useful in flat stream flows and it's only in this kind of pocket water. Of course, it's unbelievable for that. If you've ever seen that high rod tip position, it's wonderful for tackling that kind of water. But what we'd like to do, we've been out on stream and we can show you this. The first thing that we're going to bring up is this. It is an insider thing, really, isn't it? That number 3 nylon long line.
Yeah.
6 meters of number 3 nylon. Now, tell me a little bit. Now, this is with unweighted flies.
Yeah.
So just tell us a little bit about the experience of casting a number 3 nylon line.
Well, the first time we tried, it was in the famous or infamous car park at Itashiro.
Yeah.
It's a sort of meeting place in Japan of a great many great Tenkara anglers. And they have this little game they like to play where they put gradually lighter and longer lines on rods until they see who can still cast it, and if the rod can even still cast it. And sort of 6 to 10 meters of number 3 nylon is really the holy grail.
There's a big difference between number 3 nylon and number 3 fluorocarbon.
Yeah.
And this is level nylon as well.
Yeah, so a single continuous length just straight off a spool. Number 3 nylon, if you step down in fluorocarbon, most people would probably be used to using a 3.5 or a 3, maybe a 4 if you like it heavy, or a 2.5 if you like it light.
Yeah.
You usually don't find commercially available Tenkara lines below number 2.5, which is it something like 2.85 or 2.35 millimeters?
Yes. Yeah.
0.235 millimeters.
Yeah,
it's very thin anyway. Once you get below that, the rating scale continues below. Number 3 nylon's probably somewhere between 1.5 and 1.75 fluorocarbon.
Yeah.
So it's sort of way below what we can buy for Tenkara fishing.
It's difficult to say because the diameter is different because it's lower density.
But in terms of the weight, it is like a off the scale light fluorocarbon.
Yeah.
It is virtually impossible to cast unless you're casting. Your casting sort of stroke is perfect, and it shows up every fault. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing because for us it's been a great diagnostic tool for showing up faults in people who want casting lessons from us.
It shows you exactly where and when the power application goes on. It shows you how the rod tip's being damped or not.
Yeah, that's probably a lesson for another day. Yeah. But it's punishing. It's merciless in the way that it shows up every flaw. So
your technique's got to be good. Your kit's got to be good. It's got to be balanced. But why would you want to do it? Why on earth would you want to cast such a difficult rig?
I've heard objections. Why would I bother with number 3 nylon? I've never had a problem with number 3 fluorocarbon. I've never had a problem with my furled line. Well, you say I've never had a problem, but what you're actually doing is admitting that you've never had a problem fishing subpar in some situations, because if you've not fished nylon, then there will have been situations where nylon is better, it provides a better presentation, and what you've been using is worse. And you may not know the difference because you've never seen the difference.
Yeah.
So you may just get a day where you catch 6 fish doing what you do and think, that was a great day. A guy comes along with nylon, he could have had 20 fish, he could have had 50 fish. And we have had that sort of almost humiliating experience in Japan. And it is revelation. Nylon can change your presentation phenomenally.
Absolutely. It's super specialised. Let's get that straight. Yeah. It's not for windy conditions. And anything above the most gentle breeze, fluorocarbon is better. Yeah. So it's a special technique, but it's another tool for your toolbox, and it gives you another option. So what I think we should do now, with those caveats in place, for windless days, and where you want that drift to be arrow straight across stream, as far as you can manage it, that's when you want to apply this technique. So we're going to take you out on stream now, and we're going to give you that tuition so that you know exactly why you do it, how to do it, and what the benefits are.
Yeah. So here we are on stream with Paul. He's going to be fishing a 6 metre nylon level line, and we're going to look at the advantages of fishing with such a line. Before we talk about advantages, it's worth noting that this line is very, very difficult to cast. If we take a close look right at the end when the line's turning over, you'll see it's only just turning over. So why not just use a fluorocarbon line or a taper line or whatever your favourite casting line is? Well, in some situations you're going to find you're going to have to cross the current casting across a river rather than being able to cast in line with the flow. This means the weight of the line is going to be acting against you. We can take a closer look at that now. With a high rod stop and good turnover, we get the classic triangle that we expect in a Tenkara presentation. For drag-free presentation across currents, the limiting factor is usually the weight of the line, inducing drag back towards the angler. With nylon, we minimise the weight of the line, thus minimising the effect of drag and keeping the maximum separation between angler and fly. If we compare nylon to a number 4 fluorocarbon, Paul's able to achieve a much greater distance and better turnover with his cast, but you can see that immediately after the cast, the sag in the heavy line starts to draw the fly back towards him. This is not always as big a problem as you might think. If you can add some manipulation, you may be able to actually use this as a technique, but if you want dead drift, nylon really provides superior presentation. And of course, the advantage of nylon, if you do decide to add some manipulation, it can be much more subtle, as you can see Paul demonstrating here, as he uses nylon line to just add a couple of twitches before he gets a fish. So that was Paul fishing the infamous, merciless number
Feared.
3. Yeah,
let's really build it up.
Well, you can probably see at the very end, the turnover is really slow, almost to the point of stalling. It's kind of like your Kibari just makes it to its destination.
Just caresses, I think, is a word, isn't it?
There's almost no energy left at all. The Kibari's arriving there dead.
Yeah, and that's on very, very flat water as well. So you imagine with that stiff hackle where there's actually more of a current tongue that you can pick up, it's going to stay in that stronger current tongue longer as well, because you can stretch out your nylon line further. So it opens up a lot to you once you got that.
Yeah.
But we don't want to finish there, because we know that fishing encompasses so many different conditions that we'll go right to the other end of the scale. So you've got that super delicate and super extended style of fishing with the slow turnover. But for those big brawling sort of situations where you've got a real heavy line on, you're fishing at range and actually probably with a big wind-resistant fly or Kibari as well, that is completely within Honryu Tenkara, the reach of Honryu Tenkara as well.
These big open rivers, they're not always completely windless and still. And so nylon, if you've got a bit of a breeze, especially a cross breeze or a breeze towards you, with the breeze behind, nylon's almost a joy because the breeze helps it get. But the minute there's any kind of breeze from any other direction, nylon is a non-starter.
Think as well of a situation where you might fish a big streamer and you might want it in a big back rotating eddy and sort of lots of white water. Now with regular gear, all your stripping line is going to be in that maelstrom of current tongue. But people like Masami, people like Ajari, Mushu-san fishing these big powerful rivers, and they'll put some whacking great Kibari on, huge wind resistant things, and they'll be booming casts out across that white water, laying some casting line on the water and actually pulsing these big, almost like streamers, aren't they? These big sort of fish imitating or huge insect imitating things. A burly technique. So we've done a little demonstration just to show that this is actually possible, and you can, we'll leave it to your imagination how you might want to use it on your own waters. But start looking at those situations where you might otherwise be reaching for a streamer. But imagine having like a 4-metre rod you could hold off all your casting line or lots of your casting line, and try and think of the situations that would give you, just a massive advantage. So check out the next lesson now.
When fishing longer lines at range and laying some line on the water, we need to get some separation between the casting line and the fly so we'll be using longer tippet. We can either be casting downstream, as you can see here, or upstream, as you can see here, but most commonly we're fishing across strong flows. We can use furled lines, we can use taper lines, or we can use a heavy fluorocarbon line like a number 4, but the key is that the line's able to turn over a big fly, because we're going to be using flies in the region of a size 10 or bigger. Casting big flies on a big river with a long line needs a bit bigger rod, so try and steer clear of rods like 3 meters and below, and ideally you want to be creeping up towards 4 meters, maybe even a little bit more. This gives you the reach to hold as much line as possible off the water and to be able to control the fly at range. But more importantly, if you do find yourself hooking into a big fish on a bigger river, you've a chance of having a little more control over the fish as well, especially if the rod's got a little bit more power. We're watching Kobayashi-san fishing here, who you'll be seeing in Tenkara in Focus Season 2, and he's quite famous for catching some really big fish on Tenkara. Another master of long line, big fly Tenkara is Masami Sakakibara, fishing here on the Toyama River. Now we can see here Masami is able to reach across some tremendous strong flow into a pocket of slightly slower water on the other side, and he's able to manipulate his fly with all the line off the fast flow and only the tip of his long casting line on the flat water. And of course the results speak for themselves. So that's it for this time. We've looked at a couple of pretty important and not often covered, in fact I don't think ever covered skills.
I've never seen any video on it.
No, these are things that the top level anglers are doing in Japan, and it's not kind of widely spread in Japan, even in media.
No, it's a pretty select sort of group of people.
Yeah, doing it. Yeah, it's not like it's a secret. They just are surprised anyone was interested. So what we've got coming up next, we've got one more of these in this series, and it's quite a big one.
Yeah, and what we're going to do is go completely to the other end of the scale. So from the big, powerful Honryu rivers, we're going to show you some pretty ninja tactics for coping with small, overgrown, tight situations where you're going to need to be sort of agile. Some fantastic ways of delivering your fly and nothing else to a fish in those circumstances.
That's my favourite kind of fishing.
Yeah.
Tight, close quarters, spots this big.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that one.
Absolutely. So yeah, don't miss it. Join us next time.
Bye.